Innovation is not seen just the job of this one department or of this one team or of this one lab, but more how do we integrate innovation in everything that we do on an everyday basis.
Techsauce Global, sparking innovative thoughts. When it comes to innovation, there's a lot of talk, as always, about how to leverage it, how to measure it. And then today, with a rapid pace of innovation, there's that challenge. How does a company really innovate to its benefit to the fullest? สวัสดีค่ะ I'm Chaowarat Yongjiranon, or Pupe, the global content editor of Techsauce Media and your host for the Techsauce Global Podcast today. Today, we're going to dive into the concept of innovating accounting and what it means for the potential growth of companies. We are privileged to have with us Dan Toma, an innovation thought leader and famous author. His past work includes co-authoring the award-winning book of The Corporate Startup, which was awarded the Management Book of the Year for Innovation and Entrepreneurship by Chartered Management Institute and the British Library in 2018, and Innovation Accounting. And he's been involved with tech startups across the world with companies as well, such as DNB, Jaguar, Land Rover, Bayer, and Allianz. And he has this very unique thing that I'm curious about as well, and that is being a proponent of the ecosystem approach to innovation. So let's talk to him now. Sarika, hello.
Hi, thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
We're so delighted to have you. First off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work in helping companies?
Sure. I pretty much have covered it throughout the intro, so I appreciate that. The things that I can add on top of that is the fact that my background is actually in engineering. I am an engineer by trade, electronics and telecommunication. But to be honest with you, my entire life, I've only worked in entrepreneurship, minus a small period of time when I was working with a global telecommunication company. I started my first company when I was 19, and I've been on entrepreneurial path ever since, to be honest, as I said, minus about 3-4 years when I was with that company. But that time with the telecommunication company was pivotal for me in my development and my work, because that's when I started thinking about how do we take startup principles and apply them in a corporate setting, and not only in a corporate setting, but in a setting where we have more than just a founding team, in a setting that involves more people than just a handful that you have in a startup. So you can consider a large NGO, or you consider a government. So at that time, I started writing the corporate startup, found my co-authors, and I've been working on that as a result of the work I was doing with this telecommunication company. Currently, I'm working in consultancy. I founded a company in London. We are about 4 years old now. And we help companies around the world become more innovative, basically enable them to grow sustainably by investing in innovation and digital transformation. The name of the company is Outcome, and people, if they're interested in finding more about us and the amazing work that we've done, can look us up under weareoutcome.co.
I'm interested to ask a little bit more about what you mean as being a big proponent of the ecosystem approach to innovation. I think that's interesting because perhaps you're talking about the bigger picture than just like when you think about innovation, it's like not something that's superficial, but something that really needs to. I'm guessing here. I might be all wrong. Like integrated into the whole like process of innovating a company. Is that what you're talking about?
It's twofold. On the one hand, yes, you are right. We're talking about how do you connect your internal innovation efforts with the outside world? How do you develop and co-develop stuff in sync? But on the other hand, we're also talking about an internal innovation ecosystem where innovation is not seen just the job of this one department or of this one team or of this one lab, but more how do we integrate innovation in everything that we do on an everyday basis? How does legal help with innovation? How does accounting or procurement help with innovation? what is the impact that innovation has on strategy and vice versa. So essentially connecting and embedding innovation in the fiber of what the company is currently doing, rather than having it, as a lot of companies unfortunately still do, having it as an island out
Mm,
there, maybe
mhm.
across the street from the headquarters, or maybe in another city, or maybe in another district of the same city. But anyways, not embedded in the processes and in general in the game plan, if you want, of the company. Innovation is like an afterthought. So we're kind of like fighting against that, try to show people the benefit of having innovation integrated.
Would you say perhaps maybe it's like it's easier that way, perhaps, to think that okay, I'm just going to open up another department in charge
Exactly
of
right.
innovation, but then of course COVID and everything kind of, I think everyone kind of has to change about that. Oh, and then the next question, I don't want to get off the topic, but I mean, like talking about companies innovating, that's a very big loaded question. I mean, there's a lot of things that companies can do, but perhaps if you can share like the cream of of what you presented in your book, as I mentioned before, the corporate startup. I mean, what are the crucial things in terms of how companies can innovate?
Right. I think the most important bit that leaders in companies need to understand is the fact that innovation should not be treated, as I said, like a one department. So you have to have a system for innovation. It's very important. And I'm going to highlight here the word system. This
Mm,
particular system should be made up of the innovation strategy, should be made up of innovation practice, innovation management, but also leadership and culture. All these things need to work together. It's very important that these things are equally developed, equally mature, if you want, and they work together. Just investing all your, let's say, innovation money into developing an amazing strategy is not going to be enough if you don't have the practice capability, if you don't have the management, and if the culture and leadership don't exist. Same goes for culture. You invest all the money in culture, but if there is no strategy, nobody doing innovation, nobody managing innovation, good luck with that culture ever, growing roots. So again, the word that people need to the key word that people need to remember here is a system for innovation, not just a punctual solution, a one-time off solution, like we are collaborating with that startup, or we are building that lab, or we are investing in this just one project. But more, how do we think about innovation in a system way? We think about the core business in a system way, right? We don't think about just improving the legal department or just improving product management. We are considering how we improve the entire company. Let's take the same mindset and apply to innovation. It's that easy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's a lot of thoughts of what you said. I was thinking a lot of things. You were sparking a lot of what I've heard others say as well. And and it feels like, yeah. I mean, it's like, is it right for me to say, like, perhaps maybe like companies really need to be aware of what they can do, their capabilities in terms of how, because like I remember reading on your website, and you saying that there's no one book or one like process that fits every company. Every company is different, so you really need to have that ability to be aware of your capability and what you need to do to best innovate for yourself, right?
Mhm.
um, can you give us some case studies that you have worked with, or worked in, where we can gain more insight?
Yeah, again, I don't say that I know all the companies in the world where that we work with, companies in the world. But from the amount of companies that we work with, there are definitely some that are really standing out in terms of basically having developed that system of innovation, right? There are great companies out there that do one part of the system very well, and again, kudos to them, they are amazing. But there are companies that are able to build that system and nurture that. An example that comes to mind, very close to my heart, if you want, it's a Norwegian bank. They are called DNB. People can look them up. They are the largest bank in Scandinavia. They are headquartered out of Oslo, Norway. They are probably one of the, let's say, digital front runners of the banking industry. I'm not just talking about Scandinavia here, but I'm talking about Europe in general and probably the world. Obviously, there are probably more digital savvy banks in Southeast Asia, and in particular probably in China or in Japan. But for at least for European standards and Western Europe standards, they are pretty advanced. I like the fact, like when we were working with them, helping them build a system, I like the fact that leadership really resonated with the idea of a system. So we worked with the CFO. She later became the CEO. She's the current CEO of the bank, and she resonated with the fact that yes, we need to build a system, and more importantly, she resonated with the fact that the speed at which innovation needs to happen within her company needs to match the speed of change outside the company. So we got them to a point where even the innovation strategy was being approached differently. To give you an example, we were essentially doing strategy as product development. So we were doing strategy as cycles of feedback loops. We were starting with a very clear innovation strategy. Then we were starting investing in internal and external ideas based on that strategy. And that for the next 6 to 8 months, those ideas were closely managed. And
Mm-hmm.
if there was one that was not working, we were not necessarily blaming it on the people working on the idea, but more considering that as evidence that the market is not heading in that direction. So
Mm.
essentially, the topic that the idea was on was then moved to the what we were calling the antithesis, meaning that we are not going to invest in this for the next planning period, which was again 6 to 8 months. It was pretty amazing to see an organization the size of a bank. We're talking about 15,000 employees. It's not big by any standards, in particular, Southeast Asian standards, but it's an impressive number of employees, right? 10, 15,000 people able to approach strategy and to approach innovation in such a way. I think they were pretty good. And testament to that is the fact that in 2020 they won the award for the most innovative company in Norway, and that carries some weight. Obviously, Norway and Norwegian companies are very innovation savvy, and it's a very digital economy. Winning an award like that there means that you're probably doing something better or better than the majority.
I think that's so cool how you say that, like, if something doesn't work, it's not necessarily the time to point the finger, or like, it's wrong, or it's just saying it's not right for the market. Does that mean, like, perhaps, and a lot of these things really is about timing as well, isn't it? In terms of, like, is the environment ready for it? Um, so would you say that these strategies, do you think they're not totally trash, but they're kind of kept aside?
we
And then,
never
like,
we, we we never discontinued something entirely. We just moved it from the thesis to the antithesis for the next planning cycle, which was essentially 6 to 8 months. In 6 to 8 months we were revising everything, and we might bring stuff back up. Like for us, like one of the big things, just to give you a very clear example, and I'm sure the listeners will benefit from this as well. One of the things that we experimented on back then, this is like an example from 2018, was banking for wearable devices. Wearable devices were starting like to become more accepted in the market. And by wearable devices, I mean smartwatches, Fitbit bands, and other similars, the rings. And the bank started thinking about, okay, how do we enable banking on those devices? And they started investing in hardware and software at the same time, only to realize that people, in particular in their geographies, in particular in Scandinavia, were not yet interested in that. Were not yet interested in having their credit cards connected to a wristband. And what they've actually ended up doing is they discontinued the whole topic. They moved it to the antithesis. Right? They
Hmm.
said we're not going to invest in that. Now, looking in hindsight, looking back, you would say, well, but now we have credit cards connected to your Apple Watch
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
this, right?
I was just thinking just that. Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking just that. Things changed. Yeah.
Exactly. So things have changed. What happened is that the idea resurfaced again, the topic resurfaced again, but based on the input that the bank got through investing in those early stage ideas that didn't work out, the topic came back differently. Instead of saying we're going to build our own infrastructure, they said, how can we enable our cards to work on the Apple Pay and the Google Pay ecosystems? So instead of becoming a hardware manufacturer, combining hardware with software, they said, let's just enable our existing banking products to work on other people's platforms. Again, this was they were able to do that based on the evidence that they got early stage. Spotted. We never killed a topic. We essentially just put it on the back burner or put it in on a shelf
Mm,
for the next planning cycle. And I
mm,
remember the CEO of retail banking. We were in a very heated debate where a lot of people around the table, a very heated debate about some topics. And she stood up and said, hey, you know what? Enough with the conversation. If we only have to agree to this for the next 6 to 8 months, I'm happy. Let's just keep some topics on the things that we're going to do, other topics on the things we're not going to do. It's only for 6 months. Let's aim for speed rather
mm,
than taking the perfect decision.
mm. I think that's really well said. Then comes the issue of measuring corporate performance. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big challenge. What is the biggest thing do you think the companies face when they need or attempt to measure their performance?
Yeah, I mean that's why I wrote this second
Yeah.
book, right? Innovation accounting. It's a very important topic. How do we measure innovation performance within companies? It was a chapter in the corporate startup, but people were so interested in that. And again, putting on my engineer hat, I was very interested in that as well. And that's why the title of the second book is Innovation Accounting, and we're looking squarely at how do we measure innovation performance. Now, to your question, the challenge is multiple fold here. On the one hand, the biggest challenge is the fact that our standard accounting systems are definitely not suited for innovation because they emphasize where they need financial results. With innovation, you barely have financial results in the first 6 months, 1 year, sometimes even longer than that. And the financial results that you have are usually negative. So you have a big minus in front, meaning that you're at a loss, right? This might not sound as news to me or you or people that are listening and they have been on the entrepreneurial path. But for people that are in large organizations, especially at the higher levels of the organization, yes, it might not sound as new to them either, but they are very reluctant to invest in something that is not profitable from day one. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges. But these are challenges that were faced by companies the world over. Tesla, for example, or Amazon, or FedEx, they haven't been profitable for at least the first 5 years of their existence. So look at them now. Look at them in the first 5 years. It was difficult back then when they started off to say, yes, Amazon is going to be an amazing success, or Tesla is going to be an amazing success. But investors, by using different types of measuring instruments, they were able to spot the gold, if you want, in those ideas. They were able to spot the gold in that particular vision. This is why it's important for organizations of any size to essentially have another system of measuring that allows them to spot the gold into early stage ideas, into new things that they're bringing to market in the absence of financial results. Again, very important, in the absence of financial results.
That's scary, isn't it?
Yes,
For
yes.
accountants.
They need to work together with the innovation teams. It's no longer a world where we have us
Yeah.
versus them.
Yeah, and let's get into it because let's get into your book, Innovation Accounting. It seems as if it just doesn't go. No offense to accountants out there, but I'm just saying, like, how what do you mean by innovation accounting? What do you want to say in your book?
Yeah, so basically the book, as I said, is looking at creating a complementary system for performance measurement that works in tandem with financial accounting. We are not there to replace financial accounting. We never propose that. We say it, I think, in the first 5 pages of the book.
5 pages.
We
That's
Yeah,
a significant amount of of space.
of pages. Yeah. I wanted to say the first page, but I know that maybe somebody will check. So I don't remember if we said it in the first page, but it's definitely at the beginning of the book where
Okay,
where
okay.
where we say specifically that innovation accounting is not about replacing financial accounting. That's not the aim. We never wanted that. What we wanted is to build a complementary system. By a complementary system, we mean a system that's able to be good and to show progress of innovation teams to work where the financial accounting system can't. If financial accounting system can't tell me anything about the potential of an idea because there's obviously no financial data, innovation accounting should be able to do that. Again, they work in tandem. You can consider the following example. Let's say we together start an idea tomorrow. For the first 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, we're going to use the innovation accounting system to report the progress of our idea, either internally or externally, or to managers or to investors, regardless to who do we talk to. And then once we start getting revenue, once we start becoming at least cash flow positive, we are going to start using financial accounting to report our progress. So these systems contribute each other. Where financial accounting is very powerful, usually innovation accounting is not that powerful, and vice versa. Where innovation accounting is very useful, financial accounting is going to be terrible. Now, the book presents a series of indicators structured on 3 layers, from team to portfolio and all the way to the strategic layer of your organization, plus consider also culture and capability development indicators, and then explaining how things interconnect and what are some things that organizations need to have an eye out for when they try
Mm.
to measure innovation.
Oh, with that in mind, when you talk about digital transformation, it's everyone is transforming right now. But with the things that have happened around the world, what do you think is the main thing that companies need to focus on right now in the environment that we're in?
I think the most important, again, this question has very many avenues, if you want, right? Depending on the industry that you're in, depending on how profitable your organization is, how much cash flow you have, how many reserves do you have, the assets and the type of assets that you have, the geography you are located in versus the geography you want to go to. All these things come at play, right? We can't compare an airline company in the US with an insurance company in Southeast Asia. They're totally different, and they need to focus on different things. But I would say there is one underlying theme that works cross border, cross industries, very industry agnostic, if you want. And that is to build capability on the one hand
Hmm.
and build a system. It's very important to have that system thinking. And once you build a system, it's very easy to point it to do topic A, topic B, topic C. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, really focus still on, solutions. Let's just build that one project. Let's just expand to that geography. let's just digitize this one process.
Mm,
Instead of looking at, let's build the capability, so no matter what's going to happen in the world in the future, we are able to change and we are able to respond properly and in a timely manner. I think, if we take examples from disciplines like sports, we don't know exactly what the team that we are opposing in this game is going to play, what their tactics are going to be, what's going to happen during the game. But what's important is that we build our own system on how do we play the game, and we
mm,
train on that system. So no matter what opponent we have in front of you, we're still going to play our game, and we're
mm.
going to hopefully win by playing that particular game. Again, the emphasis here is not on playing the opponent, but building a system and teaching that system within your team. It's the same principle in business. Organizations should emphasize the importance of capability development and system thinking. So no matter what the challenges of the future are going to be, they are equipped, they are prepared to tackle those.
Arm yourself. Arm
Yeah,
yourself appropriately. But there are always mistakes that are made. You need to
of
make
course.
mistakes. What are the common mistakes you've seen so far, and the solutions that you've seen that have been innovative in solving those problems? Like just some or a few. We
I
don't have
think
time for
that
all of them, but there's a lot of mistakes made out there.
um, I think that one of the biggest mistakes, a couple of mistakes that I've seen being recurrent, if you want.
Mm,
um, People were investing in innovation and in digital transformation to the same extent without a very clear innovation or digital strategy. They started on the investment journey. Um, they were just reading Techsauce and TechCrunch and other great journals out there, describing new ideas, describing new technology. Then said, I want to have that, without considering what is their core business strategy, how will that react to that particular investment. Do we have an innovation slash digital strategy? That's a recurrent theme, and many times we've been working with clients to come and fix the innovation strategy, but unfortunately, for some of them, this was happening after some investments, some heavy investments were made, only to
mm.
realize that, hey, in the light of the strategy, those investments shouldn't have been made. I think that's one of a recurrent theme, if you want. Another one, which is probably very counterintuitive, and it will definitely sound counterintuitive now on the podcast, is that large organizations tend to chase unicorns, unfortunately,
Oh,
meaning that
really?
they invest in ideas internally that are very, very big. Like they want to build the next Airbnb, they want to build the next PayPal, they want to build the next whatever Tesla, right? They whenever they refer to innovation, they refer to these big, big ideas that are going to offer 20x return, 50x return, 100x return. Investors call them those unicorns.
Mm,
Instead of focusing on, we call them in the innovation accounting book, workhorses, essentially ideas that are not that sexy on paper, are not that sexy in a PowerPoint presentation, but they offer 2x, 3x, 5x return, um, considerably more than the core business, but they're not going to be the poster child of the company anytime soon.
mm,
And you can be very profitable if you invest in that middle part of the innovation spectrum, these workhorses, because on the one hand, the workhorses offer reliable returns. They are easier to manage than the unicorns. There's less uncertainty than in the case of a unicorn. And your organization is definitely more equipped to handle those in terms of capability, culture, processes, way of work. You are not that well suited to pursue a unicorn, but you are more suited to pursue these workhorses. And unfortunately, a lot of organizations, whenever they talk about innovation and they invest in the labs and whatever, they invest in these unicorns. Recently, I had a conversation with somebody at Starbucks in the US, and
Mm-hmm.
they had a lab, and they were chasing early on a lot of unicorns. Now, some of those unicorns are now making it to the market, but it took 7 to 10 years for that to happen. Well, in seven
Mm.
to 10 years' time, you have enough power and enough time to actually build several workforces, ideas that don't have a big embedded risk, and ideas that offer a sustainable return, as I said, 3 to 5x. So my advice to the listeners, and my advice to actually to all the companies we work with, is let's do innovation that it's definitely going to deliver results. We can do breakthrough innovation, we can do disruptive innovation, but let's not bet the future of the company, and let's not bet the profitability of the company on just those unicorns. Those might happen, those might not happen. Look at the venture capital companies in the world. They are not profitable because they've invested in Airbnb or in Facebook or in Twitter or in PayPal or in like all these cool startups that we all love and when we use every day almost. They are profitable. These venture capital companies are profitable because year after year they invest in startups that you and me will never hear about,
Yeah.
but they are probably very good at solving this one problem for this one customer segment in this one industry. Very, very profitable there. Are we going to hear about it? Is there going to be a book written about them or a case study or, you
No, well,
know,
now we're doing it now. We're giving them credit, the workhorses. They need some praise.
exactly,
They need some
exactly,
praise.
exactly.
Okay.
So this is how VCs are profitable. Let's just replicate that.
Honor the workhorse. Now, what do you think about the status then of the innovation that you're seeing in companies in Southeast Asia? I know, you haven't probably come to our area, but you're coming soon for our summit. But you've worked with an economic aid program of the Finnish Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Vietnam in designing a nationwide business acceleration program and has supported the capability of development activities. I mean, so I'm sure you have a grasp as to how the status has been for innovation here in the area of Southeast Asia. What do you think we're at now? At what point of development are we at now?
Well, again, I'm probably going to answer this on the back of dated information. Like I used to live there. I used to live in the region for
Oh,
about a
okay.
year. Yeah, I was working there 2015, 2016, and then I had some corporate contracts in the region following to 2016 all the way to 17. So all in all, I've been there for about a year and a half, living and breathing the Southeast Asian, air, if you want. I was based in Vietnam.
Okay.
Totally different economy, totally different geography, totally different culture than all the other countries actually in Southeast Asia. I think all the countries are different. You can't compare Thailand with Indonesia and
Yeah.
Malaysia with the Philippines and Vietnam with Cambodia and so on and so forth. What I know about the region, again, it's a region that personally interests me because it's a very dynamic region. Um, what I know for a fact is that unlike European companies and Western world companies, if you want, right, including here the U.S. and Canada as well, is that you are definitely on the forefront of using digital technologies. Stuff that is so easily done with a mobile app in Southeast Asia takes a lot of time to do in Europe. Organizations that are more digital here in Europe, they a lot of times take inspiration from things that are happening in Southeast Asia. Looking at examples like Peng An, the insurance company in China, again, it's an amazing example of how they were able to tap into AI to simplify a lot of the things that the typical insurance in Europe would take ages to do pen and paper work with like a lot of labor force. However, I think that the region needs to be a bit more bold when it comes to innovation. Be a bit more try to find their own voice rather than just waiting on seeing what's the next trend in the US and then investing in that. I think that mindset needs to change. You should like
Mm.
start getting that leadership mindset rather than the fast follower mindset. If this makes sense.
I think it is interesting because in the fact that I'm in Thailand and you were in Vietnam, and this is something that Thais have always been talking about amongst themselves. Like you need to think not only within the Thai market, you need to think abroad. And it's interesting that other countries, even though we're not, you can't really compare us 100%, think the same in this region that we kind of have this kind of disease that we should be proud of our innovation, that we have, and we should be able to have that confidence to say that we can do something different. um I'm running out of time. I can't believe this. But like we are going to hear more from you at the Techsauce Global Summit 2022 in August 26th to 27th, by the way. He's going to be at the corporate innovation stage on the 26th, if you're interested. Tell us, can you tease a little bit about, what you're bringing to the kingdom and to our event
Sure.
after so long of not having it? We're so excited to have a speaker like you to come.
I'm very excited about being there. To be honest, Techsauce has always been like one of those conferences I always wanted to speak at, and
Mm,
now finally, dream coming true. Well, we're still working on the topic, but what I can definitely tell you is that it's going to be an interactive session, and it's going to be very engaging. We are definitely going to look into things such as how do we measure innovation and how do we build systems for innovation. That's what I can definitely promise. Now, the exact topic, as I said, we are working on it. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing most of you, if not all of you, at the event. And I'm sure we're going to have a great time and learn a bunch from each other.
well, in the meantime, if you want a copy of his book, Innovation Accounting, where can we purchase or get more information about it?
You can just go to innovationaccountingbook.com. That's
Hmm.
our website. And from there, you have links to various outlets that sell it. Amazon would be the go to, but there are other bookstores that also offer international shipping. So I don't know if we actually have a partnership with a retailer in Thailand or in Southeast Asia, but definitely check our website.
Yeah,
All
and
the
come,
information are
yeah,
there.
and buy a ticket to our summit as well.
Definitely. So we meet in person.
Dan, you do not disappoint. I just want to give you the chance to give any last words. I mean, thank you so much for, giving us, real insightful information, from honoring those, workhorses to knowing your own capabilities as a company to leverage innovation and all those things, which by the way I'll summarize later on in print if you if you're and you want to learn or review. We do have a printed summary of our conversation here, but yeah, any last takeaways for today?
What can I say? Continue doing what you're doing, focus on innovation, but be pragmatic about that focus. Be pragmatic in your approach. Don't invest in innovation because it's cool and it looks nice on paper and it will stick well on a PowerPoint presentation. Do it for clear purposes and be pragmatic. That will be my advice.
Thank you so much, Dan. And we'll see you here in Thailand soon. As for now, this is the latest episode of our Techsauce Global Podcast. See you next time. Sawasdee ka.
Techsauce, sparking innovative thoughts.